This is the Fight Strength Podcast.
All right, let's go.
Get the insight and perspective from two elite strength and conditioning coaches who work with the full spectrum of fighters from amateur to UFC champions.
That's it, JJ. Finish it.
We don't just talk about it.
Keep moving.
We are about it.
Don't stop. Let's roll.
We live this.
Come on, D.
You're listening to the Fight Strength Podcast with me, Phil Daru, and McGregor McNair.
Good job. That's how we roll.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again on the Fight Strength Podcast. This is episode number 47. I'm your host, McGregor McNair. With me, as always, is the one and only Mr. Phil Daru. What's up, Phil?
What's going on, man? It's been quite a hiatus on this one.
That's right.
I've been on a hiatus on two different platforms, the podcast and on Instagram. We'll talk about that a little later, but it feels good. Feels good to be back on here and talking with my man here, my Australian brother. So
That's
happy
right.
to be back.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been off air for nearly 3 months, I want to say, but you know that's I guess testament to how much other stuff we've had going on in the periphery. I mean, you've been all over the world. What is it? About 8 countries you've been to in 2018. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you count the U.S. So 7 countries outside of the U.S. and then, 11 seminars. And, obviously the holidays play a big role too. I'm a family man, so I had to get that done. And then with my training with the fighters, man, it just picked up tremendously. Just got done we did Joanna Jedrzejczyk. I mean, Amanda Nunez just won her double belt. Yep. So it's been a lot. Edson Barboza just fought. I just got, a ton of stuff going on, especially with our mentorship program. So, it's just finding the time obviously is always the big issue, but I feel good. I feel like we can keep this thing going and consistent. And I want to thank everybody who's listening right now, who's been following, who's been asking when I'm going to bring this back and when we're going to start, recording again. But here we are. We're almost up to 50 episodes, and I guarantee you, I promised everybody that I'm going to be doing at least 100 episodes. So Mac, we got some work to finish.
We got our work cut out for us, brother. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, it's the kind of thing, especially with so much going on in the professional lives, it's always a challenge for me to kind of take time away from you on a Friday night. It's Friday night there now, which is which you've said to me is kind of, your only time you get to spend with the family. So it's kind of it's a catch-22, man. It's bittersweet.
Yeah, I mean, also it's kind of hard to get, more guests on the show just because of the time change and everything like that. So just that's one thing. But at the end of the day, I love doing this, man. I love talking with you. So it's not a big deal. We do this anyways. We just don't do it on air. So now people get to listen and follow in,
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And it is an absolute pleasure to bring this show to everyone out there. So yeah, again, thanks for bearing with us, and we hope you guys enjoy the show. What do we got lined up for these guys today, Phil?
So we're going to talk a little bit about programming, especially when it comes down to mixed martial arts. I know that this has been a big misconception, especially in the world of combat sports, and this is primarily most of the questions I get is primarily based off of programming and periodization methods for MMA-based athletes, right? Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I want to dip a little bit into that and the circumstances that will alter the methods that you actually use. Now, with that being said, you have to understand the circumstances like we talked about before. Now, each athlete and each coach and each gym, whatever you may have, especially with me with American Top Team, I have 85 fighters right now, and that's no lie. And we have roughly about 150 fighters in the gym, professional fighters at the highest level. So methods have to be changed and altered to match the demands and the situation that I have there. Otherwise, we're just trying to do what we're trying to do and fit, fit a square peg in a round hole. And we just can't do that, right? So we have to make sure that we're consciously putting it together so that it'll work to the best of its abilities, right?
Sure.
In my opinion, now you can attest to this. If not, let me know. But there's 2 methods that are highly effective, right? In my years of training fighters, where I see weekly undulation or step loading, and then the conjugate concurrent model. And I feel like those 2 have been tremendously effective and efficient when it comes to all MMA fighters. Now, obviously, there's going to be some differences between the pro fighters and the average regional scene fighters and even just the amateurs, right? There's totally different sides to that. But for me, at the highest level, right, with the pro fighters, I have to make sure that I'm working a conjugate concurrent model, right? And that's because a lot of the times my guys and girls don't come in to camp until it's time for them to fight. Now, they are training year round, but I don't see them at American Top Team most of the time. Dustin Poirier doesn't live in Florida anymore. Joanna Jedrzejczyk is in Poland. The only ones that are truly there, I can actually have maybe some sort of, I guess, program to where it's a phase by phased out, perspective. That's very small percentage, right? So in my opinion, also long-term block periodization is outdated, right? And ultimately it leads to detraining, if not programmed in the essence of potentiation and adaptive decay. Okay. So if you're not able to understand when the adaptations or the stimulus adaptations that are going to be detrained or decay, then you're not going to be able to fully perform at the highest peak when the time comes. Okay. So I run a conjugate model. It's a 3-day-a-week microcycle with a 3-week pendulum wave to enhance readiness throughout the entire year. Okay. The aerobic systems also are concurrently trained throughout each week to optimize readiness and to balance out the strength adaptations along with the skills work, right? So if I'm doing some sort of, and I can get into detail on it a little bit later, but if I'm doing something that's going to be highly max effort, right? Obviously, max effort is going to be 3 to 6 seconds, maybe 4 at the most. So my aerobic work is going to match the time under tension of the weight training. So I'm not throwing the organism in 2 different directions. Okay. Now, for me, the key points to training is obviously you want to make sure the main lift should have high transfer to the sport, right? We want the variations of the exercises, the main lifts, to have high variance so that it can truly transfer over into the sport. And that's what our specificity comes from. From our perspective, we're not going to have them go and throw weighted punches and kicks. The way we actually have true specificity in the sport is having the exercises and the lifts that are going to transfer over into the sport of play. Does that make sense?
It does. And I imagine you would use this as well. There's kind of a spectrum of dynamic correspondence on which each of your major lifts fits somewhere on that spectrum, where some lifts have a higher degree of transfer and transmutation into movements and the demands of the sport, whereas others will have more of a broad or a general degree of specificity. So yeah, that absolutely resonates with me.
And for me, primarily the main lifts along with the special exercises. Special exercises will be along that pendulum of, when it comes down to correspondence, it'll be far away, right? Special exercises are going to help the main lift. The main lift is going to help the sport.
Absolutely.
That makes sense, right?
It does.
So special exercises, like I said, should be integrated to help the progress of the biomotor abilities of the athlete and to increase the abilities of the main lift, right? To increase your strength, right? Accessory exercises, however, should center around the weak points in the body, right? So we're picking accessories after we look at the main lift, the breakdown in muscle, and the breakdown of the let's say the special exercises. What is not firing correctly? What do we see is lacking, right? And that's when you can start to program your accessories around that. Maybe hamstrings, any posterior chain, upper back, neck, whatever the case may be, core, so on and so forth, right? And
so, sorry, Phil, if I may. The accessory work, I guess we can borrow a lot from the powerlifting community and use the accessory work to target things like leaks in tension and stability and things like that, as well as contractile breakdown.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So if the movement isn't efficient in some sort of way, let's say if their breakdown is, if they're doing a squat and their breakdown, they're falling forward. Obviously, we need to work a little bit of lower back. We need to make sure that their upper and mid back are strong and stable. And that's probably something there. Also could be a mobility issue. So we have to make sure we're taking that into account. So you have to have a coach's eye to actually see breakdown. And then from there, you could correlate the accessories to match what's going on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so and I hit this really with high frequency and volume in order to increase that performance, primarily to, and this could be done obviously after the main lift and the supplemental lift if you have time. If not, they can do it as cleanup work either on the third day, and I'll get into that too as well, or on an opposite day, especially if they're off camp, right? They're in camp, obviously we have to decay fatigue, we have to worry about recovery, things like that. But with off camp, when they're not truly 8 weeks out and under, we can work on those weak points. We can get them stronger structurally so that they can get ready for camp, for the skills and tactical and technical training, and also get their body ready for physical preparation, getting closer to the fight. Okay, and the single joint exercises with high volumes are around 100 to 200 reps. I do a shit ton, right? Very light load every other day to enhance tissue strength, and it's also for restoration, right? So for me, I'll use, we do valve slide, hamstring sliders. So they'll lay supine. We'll do up to 100 hamstring sliders a day, or every other day, I should say, right? You can either do that, or I take 5 to 10 pound ankle weights, laying prone, and they're just doing lying, hamstring curls with those. You can also use a band, light mini band, something like that, give them slight tension and work on that. Now that's just for hamstrings, right? It could also be done for neck work. It could be done for your grip strength and isometric tension. We do a lot of face pulls, a lot of good mornings, a lot of back extensions, GHR, things like that. Then we could talk more about GPP work. And basically what GPP is, general physical preparedness. That's what we truly are working on outside of camp, right? We're trying to get the body ready for the demands put upon it inside of, the fight camp, right? The great thing about that is once you can develop that base of aerobic capacity and strength, everything else can be skyrocketed, right? So, they always say, Louis Simmons says this a lot, man. It's like, how tall is a pyramid? As wide as its base, correct? So if we can build that base as wide as possible, pyramid could be taller than skyscrapers, right? So that being said, we want to focus on things like sled drags and pulls, fast switch capacity training, which I'll get into that too as well, fast switch hypertrophy training. I also utilize escalating density training, aerobic circuits, and lactate retention method that I kind of took right there from triphasic training, Cal Deeds' book, where basically after a set of, let's say, back squat, or in my case, it would be a Zercher squat, they will sit in a squatted position, retaining that lactate so it accumulates through the legs so that the body can get used to it in time, right? So you're increasing that ability to buffer lactate.
Okay, so you would be staying in the bottom position of a squat. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, so no weight, no load, you rack the weight, you get off, and you just stay in a low squatted position. Do this for about 30 seconds for your active recovery. Wait another 30 seconds and then go do your set again. Okay. Right?
Yeah, I've seen something
and you
similar.
Would usually,
what did you say that was called? Lactate retention?
Lactate retention.
Cool.
You would do this to gain a true adaptation, you need to do this for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So make sure you program that accordingly. I wouldn't do this inside of camp, right? If you're 6 weeks out, I would not do this. Anything higher than that, you can get away with it. Okay. So, and then obviously, like I said, for energy system training, the focus is going to match the stimulus inside the weight room, right? So on max effort days, we work on that anaerobic alactic training, keeping the time frame consistent with the load and the time under tension, roughly, like I said, 4 to 6 seconds, right? With about a 2-minute recovery, and that's usually active recovery. That's going to be primarily some sort of like shadow boxing or some corrective exercise, right? Like I said before in other podcasts and in my seminars, my fighters don't like to stay idle. They don't like to sit around. So giving them something as quote unquote busy work, right? That's going to help them and will enhance their qualities to do the lift, and also not to keep everything interesting, right? Don't keep things. You don't want things to get stale. On dynamic effort work, right? So on Tuesdays it's usually max effort, right? I do Tuesday max effort because Mondays are going to be a hard wrestling session. Okay, Tuesdays in the afternoon or in the early afternoon, they're doing their sparring, right? So I usually have the guys and girls that are in camp, they're doing their strength and conditioning about 6 hours later, right? So I have a group at 6, 7, and 8 o'clock, right? So they will do their max effort training on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday we do dynamic effort. Now the dynamic effort, like I said, we work on alactic speed endurance. This is something that I took from Miss Carmen Bott. We use a method of kettlebell swings every minute on the minute, 10 reps, right? And they're going to be doing some sort of active recovery in between the time that they're off.
Yep.
So it's just basically going to be shadow boxing and making sure that they're staying technical and moving efficiently as they wait.
Yeah. So that's sprint repeatability and some active recovery work.
Basically, yes.
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful.
And now that can be done, and we've done this in the gym. We've done this with you. Remember, we did the kettlebell swings.
That's right.
So
and
you can
do
that with kettlebell swings.
Took a whole week to upload the video.
yeah. The bandwidth in Australia wasn't so nice to me that week, man. So you can do that with that. You can do that with maybe light dumbbell jump squats. I've seen good increases in that. I did ask her, however, if we could do it with a prowler push. Now, she didn't do it before, but I would say that I've done it and I've seen good increases in the aerobic capacity through that, right? The energy system that we're trying to get, the adaptations. I feel like that works, but I'd rather it be ballistic. It's ballistic exercises.
Got it.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see. On the repetition method effort day, now that's going to be the third day, and primarily once they're in camp, I usually cut this day out and usually use it as a mobility day.
Got it.
If not anything, just a restoration recovery. But the ones that are outside of camp, that's primarily going to be working on lactic threshold work if needed. Primarily if they miss sparring or wrestling days that week, I'm definitely going to go ahead and throw that at them because they missed the day anyways. So we're still going to give them that. We're still going to give them that stimulus, but just in a controlled environment, right?
And would this be kind of where you'd be throwing in your high volume 100 rep days and that like you were just talking about with the hamstrings? Would that work in?
Yeah. Yeah. So primarily, right, and it's super lightweight, right? So it's not supposed to cause any massive soreness too. So you also have to make sure that you're understanding the minimal effective dose and the maximal recoverable volume. So you have to understand that for your athlete. You can also run off a Prillipin's chart. I highly recommend that if you do not know your MRV of your athletes. So Prillipin's chart's a good way to kind of backtrack and use it as a good reference sheet, right?
Subjective reference.
Yeah, basically. So, and then Saturdays and Mondays are usually aerobic capacity training, some LSD work, or low intensity tempo running, right? Yep. If they're efficient in swimming, if they can swim, by all means, go ahead and swim. It's low impact. I'm down for that too as well. But if they can't swim, if it turns into lactic, then obviously you don't want to do that because that's not the stimulus we're trying to get. Okay, so rotation of exercises. Now, this is the whole reason why we do conjugate, right? We rotate exercises, but not as frequently as Westside does. Now, Westside will do it every week, right? We simply do it probably every 3 weeks, and that's just because my athletes aren't as efficient in lifting and don't have the experience as the Westside guys, right? So they need time to adapt. They need to learn the movement pattern. They need to learn the efficiency of the lift, right? Once that happens, then we can start to see some PRs and get them working to get a max, right? So the 3-week rotations with a deload at the end of the 4th week. So it is basically like step loading, right? We're just doing it with a max effort day every week, right?
Sorry, if I may, I mean, when you talk about the West Side guys, the training age of most of these athletes is right up there. So there's super advanced athletes. They take very, very specific stimuli to cause adaptations, right? So no wonder there's so much variety in revolving those exercises. But I imagine with fighters and athletes from sports other than strength sports, there becomes a much larger window to cause adaptations. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you also want to make sure that they're able and efficient to move weight and load in all different multi-directional patterns because the sport is multi-directional. right? So I want them to be strong in certain patterns. With that being said, also from a buy-in perspective, you don't want the training to get stale, right? So introducing new exercises and getting them stronger and having them hit new records in each exercises is going to have better trust and buy-in into the program, and they're actually going to want to train. So that's another reason why we do it, right?
Sanity.
And honestly, I like it. And for me as a coach, I like it because now I have different ways to stimulate my guys and girls, right? In a way that I know is going to be progressive.
Yep. That's right.
So the 3-week rotations with that deload, right? At the end of the 4th week, this will just be about 15% reduction in intensity and a 65 to 70% reduction in overall volume, right? That's the deload week, right? Just because volume in general fatigues them the most. And honestly, they're doing a shit ton of other training. So I want to decrease that and still maintain our strength. Just by reducing it by 15%, they're still going to get some sort of, some strength qualities from that, right? So the 6 major compound lifts that I actually go through, and guys, get your pen and papers out, is going to be a good one because this is the common question I get a lot of the times. It's going to be Zercher squats, sumo deadlift, trap bar deadlift, floor press for the upper body, incline bench press for the upper body, and then pendlay row for the upper body pull.
Pendlay row, excellent.
Yeah, threw that in there, right? Especially for grapplers, fighters in general, I feel like this has crazy carryover, especially when it comes down to static overcome by dynamic, rate of force production, right? Being able to take that load that's dead on the floor and explode through, pull it through. And I think that back in general, posterior chain in general, needs to be worked tremendously with fighters, man, because they're getting overloaded with the anterior chain.
Sure.
Right.
Now, quick question on that. With those 6 there, I noticed you haven't included any form of chin up or pull up. Is there what reason have you thrown in the pendlay row instead of a chin up or a pull up?
Okay, so for me, I've found that a lot of my guys and girls do have shoulder issues, right? They lack external rotation in the shoulder. So for me to force external rotation for a pull-up usually what ends up happening is they end up getting tendonitis in the elbows.
Got it.
Because they're torquing that elbow, right? Another reason with the chin up, the lats aren't usually what's dominant. In general, what I see is that the lats are getting worked through punching and through shadow boxing and through pad work and things like that. What I see primarily is a lack in upper back strength and scapular retraction. So horizontal pulling is going to be more beneficial for my particular fighters.
Got it, for retraction.
That's something that's good. That's something that's going to be situational, right? So you have to look at your fighters and actually see what's dominant in their backs, right? In all my fighters, they have pretty good developed lats. They can pull, to an extent. And what I haven't seen primarily is traps need to be brought up, and mid back and upper back needs to be brought up.
Yep.
So that's why we do pulls from the horizontal region.
Got it.
Not to say that I won't put that in the program. I just won't use it as a compound main exercise lift.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. Now, so the special exercises, right, these are to help to increase the strength capacity of the main lifts, right? So here are the best special exercises that I've seen to have the greatest carryover, right, is good mornings, barbell RDLs, deficit deadlift pulls, rack pulls, close grip bench press, Zercher split squats, Zercher split squat good mornings, and my favorite, glute bridge floor press. You know how to put that in.
The Daru press.
So, yeah. So there's variations of it, man. There's variations of it, right? But yeah, good mornings, I feel out of all of these, definitely something that we need to work more on. I did a test maybe a couple weeks ago, and primarily I would like for my guys and girls to be able to at least good morning 30 to 40% of their back squat or their Zercher squat in my case, right?
That's good.
you know, it's hard for them. It's tough for them. You know what I'm saying? We got to develop that back strength. And I think that right there, hamstrings, glutes, and low back, definitely a key factor. If you can get a safety bar or SSB yoke bar from Elite FTS, I would use that bar over any other bar to do your good mornings. Sure just thing. Because anything you can do it with anything, it's definitely gonna you know, allow you to strengthen up the upper back, strengthen up the lower back, and obviously if you switch your foot position, either be wide or close, you're gonna hit hamstrings in a different way.
All right. Now I've got a technical question for you. Now, hopefully this is helpful to some people out there, because this is something I've come across a lot dealing with the good morning itself. The position of the bar in a high bar position, as your torso comes down closer to horizontal, a lot of people get a lot of discomfort with that bar rolling over the vertebrae of the neck and things like that. So a lot of the time what you'll see people doing is putting pads on the bar, using safety bars, which generally have a lot of padding around the neck. Yeah. What are your best tips for people in this position?
Well, there's two ways you can do that, right? One, obviously get an SSB bar, get a safety bar, right? Get a yoke bar. And that's what I usually use. If not, you can use a Zercher good morning. Yep. And that's why I do the Zercher split squat good morning, because then you can isolate each side of the leg, and then also you're putting it in the crooks of the elbow. It's also going to tax. It's gonna fry up your core. It's gonna fry up your anterior. Yeah, your abs are gonna feel it the next day. So that's one thing that I use instead of that back squat, because I find that to be discomforting also as well, just having that bar sit on the back and then rolling forward. And honestly, a lot of my fighters, when I did try to do the straight bar, I did see that happening. So that's a good question, man.
Yeah, it's good. Now there's one thing on that a good friend of ours, Mr. Stefan Cazol over at Kilo Strength Society in Huntington Beach, a good tip that he showed me a long time ago was with the good morning, actually get your grip out as wide as you can, almost collar to collar, and actually actively pull that bar down into your traps.
Sure.
So you've kind of got a bit of an active element to the lift as well, pulling that bar back into your upper back.
Yeah, I mean, you would do that in a regular back squat anyways.
That's right.
Right? You got to activate your lats anyways. The problem there is that you also run into that external rotation of the shoulder. So it is uncomfortable for the shoulder even. So I don't even put that in the position to do that, right? Now, if you have an experienced lifter, if you have somebody that has healthy shoulders, by all means, you can use that barbell and actually activate your lats and put it on a shelf so that it is sitting down in the right ways and it's not going to move. The barbell should not move on your back anyways. When you're doing any type of movement. That just shows that your grip isn't tight and your lats aren't engaged.
That's right.
Right?
Lack of tension.
But exactly. But if the shoulders aren't healthy and the fighter or athlete isn't ready to do that movement properly, doesn't have the prerequisites to do that movement, there's no point to load it and to make them go through that movement, right?
Yeah. But there's no disputing, the value of the good morning. There's just several different ways to execute it.
There's so many different ways, and every exercise in here has different variations. That's why I love it. You know what I'm saying? Same thing like barbell RDL. You could do that with a trap bar. You could do that with dumbbells. You could do that with a lot of different barbell paths and things like that. You could do it with a band. You can, you know what I mean? There's so many different ways, right? So just depends on what you have, what your circumstances are, and the athletes and what they have as far as the prerequisites to do work,
Yep.
Okay.
What's
so
next?
Tapering and peaking. Yeah, so tapering and peaking, right? Primarily tapering, is usually dependent upon the strength of the athlete. The stronger the athlete, the stronger the fighter, the more experienced, the longer the taper is going to be, right? Primarily, generally, my fighters take a 2-week taper, right? And this is the most beneficial, I should say, when it comes down to making sure that they're totally recovered and they're ready to go when the time comes, right? We bring down intensity by about 10% the first week. Okay, so that's the first week of the 2-week taper. That Thursday before they leave, they're gonna go for either a speed squat and a speed bench, right? So that's going to be roughly around 70 to 80% of their 1 rep max, right? Now that's the last day, right? The first day of the 2 weeks, right, is going to be 90% to 95, maybe even 100% effort, just to make sure that their central nervous system is firing, and hopefully we can get a max, you know, a new record on their lift, right? It's going to give them confidence going into the fight. They know they're strong. They progress throughout the camp, right? Then the next day, that 2 week taper, we're going to go just do speed work after that, right?
Sure.
Also, the volume is brought down tremendously, 60%, right? We're not going to go too heavy into that. So they may do, on that Tuesday, they may do 2 or 3 singles at 92 to 95%.
Yep.
Right?
So, I mean,
Thursday.
Sorry, it just seems to be a common theme among the coaches we've interviewed on these shows, is that the closer to fight date you are, the more high velocity or high intensity work you do before you deload and you try and prepare for that residual drop off. So, yeah, it's very consistent.
Yeah, I mean, volume's going to equate to overall fatigue. So we want to make sure, and especially when it comes down to balancing the skills, tactical and technical training, we have to make sure that that everything is conjugated and everything is working systematically together, cohesively, for the entire camp. So that's why another thing is, we can get into that too as well, but communication between all coaches is going to be vital and important, because one person is doing one thing, the other person is doing the other, then the fighter is going to not get the true adaptations they need. They're not going to get the performance that they require. They're not going to recover properly. And they're actually, at the end of the day, that's their life. You know what I'm saying? So we got to make sure that we're properly preparing them as coaches to be the best that they can be.
That's right. The more sets of eyes on the athlete, the better. But if there's no communication between coaches, it's kind of a waste, really, isn't it?
Exactly. So, I mean, and then the second week, primarily for me, man, they're usually gone that week. They go to the hotel, they go to the venue, they got interviews and things like that. So primarily it's just basically mobility, a little bit of drilling there and there, just to keep them, functionally and technically sound. And then they'll do maybe a little bit of speed work if they want, a couple of sprints, nothing too crazy. And that's on the far end of that week. So that Monday or Tuesday, and then they start to cut weight, and then once they start cutting weight, then that's it. You know what I mean? It's just time to fight after that. So, and then we can get into detail on the weight cutting thing, but and that's primarily not my expertise. That's something that Tony Ricci, Chris Algieri, George Lockhart, those guys, tremendous with that. At the same time, I do know that we want to make sure that we are bringing down any type of training and trying to get the most cortisol pushed out of the body as much as possible, so that the stress can alleviate, and also make sure that they are taking away any water, anything that's left in the body, so we can make that weight. Right. But if there is some high cortisol, their stress levels are high, the body's going to hold on to whatever it can, because it feels like it's being threatened. So we want to make sure we're minimizing that as much as possible.
So managing inflammation, managing stress levels, managing cortisol, and eliminating water retention as much as is possible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
Exactly. All right.
But then weight cutting, be it, not your area of expertise, how much can we really fit into this podcast episode today? Seriously.
Yeah, man. We still have a bunch more to talk about, but that could be something that we talk maybe next week. A little bit about. It's funny, man. George Lockhart hit me up on I think it was yesterday. Yeah, he texted me yesterday. He wants me to come out to do his certification course.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, he's like he wants me to be an honorary guest for his certification course. So I'll be seeing him at the end of the month, and also I'm getting a visit from our who else is coming? A couple other coaches are coming down, so it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be a good time.
That's amazing, man. That George Lockhart, what a character, huh?
Yeah, good guy. Always had a good relationship with him, as far as he's worked with Joanna Jedrzejczyk, he's working with Dustin Poirier, so we've always had a good working relationship. He respects me, I respect him, so it's all good,
Yeah, fantastic. So what else did you want to cover there when it comes to periodization and special exercises for MMA?
I mean, another thing is that in my opinion, you can't overthink it too much, right? There's always, obviously you want to make sure that you're giving the best opportunities for your athletes, but I think that coaches in general, they overthink the process too much. With the fighters, you know, they're going to adapt to any new stimulus that you give them, right? They're fairly new, in my opinion, and in my circumstances, and you know what I've been through with coaching fighters. There's only 1 to maybe 3 that I could say that are relatively advanced in weight training, right? The rest are intermediate to beginners, right? A lot of them are novice when it comes down to lifting weights. So anything we do to cause the strength adaptation is going to work.
That's right.
We just got to make sure that we're managing fatigue, right? And we're giving them the best opportunity to progress in their sport as a whole, right? Because we're not just strength coaches. I hate to say I'm just a strength and conditioning coach, because there's so many other aspects that you're doing as a coach there, right? We got to manage fatigue, right? We got to make sure that they're balanced in the right ways that are not going to hinder the biomotor abilities of their sport, but also make sure they're safe and to an extent, right? It's a contact sport. You can only keep them so safe, right? But we're protecting them with body armor, right? We're protecting them with the ability to absorb force and redirect it. You know, then from there, exactly. So, and then obviously when it comes down to the aerobic demands, we want to make sure that they have the endurance to get through practice, to get through training, to get through camp, and then obviously, you know, manage their output and manage their energies efficiently inside the fight.
That's great. So. And with the aerobic work, there's so many other peripheral benefits, health-wise. You know, bringing down your stress levels. You know, returning to a parasympathetic state. All this kind of stuff. The aerobic work, while even if it's really well developed and you're just in maintenance mode, there's so many benefits health-wise to keeping that aerobic work ticking over even during camp, even getting closer to the fight date, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and you could probably correct me on this one, but what to say? It's usually when you do aerobic work, right? It's restoration work, right? We're trying to recover, right? So I usually do that on a Saturday and a Monday too as well. I want to make sure that they still have that capacity, you know, and improving that oxygen intake, you know. With Joel Jamieson, I think he calls it a reload day, right? So with that reload day, right, we're able to increase readiness, you know, decay fatigue, and then also we're increasing the overall aerobic capacity. So we're building that base of energy so that it can produce through anaerobic, alactic, lactic, and all the other energy systems.
Sure. Right. So there's some development and some stimulation within the one modality. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's why I keep it concurrent throughout the years. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be training no matter what. Let's make sure that they're capable of training adequately each and every day so that they can get better with their skills, right? And they'll never stop training. Dustin Poirier is back in Florida because he couldn't stay away. He doesn't have a fight booked yet. They don't know what he's going to do. We might fight Ferguson. We might fight Conor. Who knows? But he couldn't stay away. He wants to train. He wants to get better, right? And that's just the mentality that a lot of them have. Now, even though they may not be with me at American Top Team, they're still back home training with their team or training with their local gym, right? So their skills work is always there because that's something that they know, right? The reason why I say long-term block periodization does not work also is because they're not with me when they leave. So they're not doing the right things when they go to the local, you know, weightlifting gym there, or they're asking a guy that has no idea what their program entails, has no idea about them, doesn't know baseline testing on them, has nothing, right? So it's easier, it's effective, it's efficient for me. Once they get in, we get them going as fast as we possibly can, and also making sure that they're maintaining their level of abilities throughout the entire year.
Sure. It becomes so complex when you've got so many modalities and so much ground to cover in such a short amount of time in a fight camp, and with so little control over what these athletes are doing the rest of the year. So it's you know, it really becomes a complex puzzle to figure out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's one thing that you'll find out if you're a good coach or not too, is if you have the ability to have a plan B each and every day, right? I think a lot of the times people get stuck in the X's and O's and black and white, and you have to find that gray area and be able to call an audible, right, and auto-regulate on a daily basis, because something's going to happen with fighters.
That's
every
right.
day something's going to be wrong, right? So if I don't have the ability to change it up on the fly, I'm not going to be successful with my job. And ultimately, they're not going to be successful because they're going to end up either hurting themselves and not being able to train because they're doing things that they're not ready for, or they're going to overtrain and get sick, and then obviously it's going to hinder the overall training process of the camp or whatever the case.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, and that's another reason why I do like the method that I use, because of the fact that I can call audibles on anything possible. I know that I have a large exercise pool. If a person doesn't have the prerequisites to get into a proper position, let's say even on a Zercher squat where I've never seen any problems with it, there's always ways to auto-regulate. There's always ways to change things up. And I don't like to, there's progressions and regressions to everything, but I technically don't like to regress a certain exercise, because if a person can't do that exercise, there's usually a problem there in the chain, in the kinetic chain. So let's go after the problem first instead of masking it with a Band-Aid. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So,
which I think is the correct approach, best practice for any coach. You know what I mean? Fix the problem. Don't just take out the check engine light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, and for you young coaches out there, I think that that's one thing that you have to learn on the floor. That's not something that you can learn in a book. You have to have years of coaching experience and coach a bunch of different people, not just athletes, right? General public is something that, when I first started, I worked with general public all day long. I did a boot camp, and I had to do this on the fly every day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you too, Mac. I know you've had, you're 10 plus in the game too as well, and you had to have your fair share of calling audibles each and every day. You know what I mean? And I think also is being able to understand a person in movement quality. And the best way to do that is watch somebody that can't move properly.
Yeah.
Right? The best way I've learned to understand proper squat mechanics is watching somebody who can't fucking squat. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing breakdown in the kinetic chain. I'm seeing breakdown in the core and in breathing and bracing patterns, and watching a bar path, and even just watching the ankle to feet. I can actually dictate what's going on with their squat from the entire body, because I've done it so many times. You know what I'm saying?
I do, man. I can't help but smile, man, because still to this day, one of the most satisfying things for me is taking someone who's never squatted before and got a squat that looks like a bag of shit, and then helping them develop that movement pattern, helping them to develop it into a really, really standout squat. I mean, I've done that a few times, let's say over my career, but I still love coaching the squat, man. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, me too. I think that's something that we share definitely. It's just, and I think that's it's one compound movement that correlates to everything in life, man. You got to get up and sit. You got to sit down and stand up. If you can't do it properly, there's going to be some problems. There's going to be some compensation, and yeah, that's it, man. So, I watch my son. He's 4 years old. He squats perfectly. So I'm going to keep this going.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, kids with their posture and some of the movement patterns are just, they've got it right from the start, and it takes years of developing bad movement patterns and bad motor sequencing that causes all the problems down the line.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, and that's something that I think that that's what goes wrong with people, is that they don't do it enough. You got to constantly be doing this. You have to constantly move in all different directions. Otherwise, you're gonna get stuck in a fixed position, and then when you're forced to get in that real range position, you're gonna get hurt. Yeah. Because your body's not strong, it's not stable enough, right? Usually, and that's primarily because of the fact that muscles aren't strong. Muscles aren't being able to be moved and activated in certain endpoints and situations there. So the best thing I can say is just keep moving as you get older. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't stop moving. Don't stop exercising, whatever the case may be. And you'll see that you will not have joint and tendon problems and ligament problems and things like that.
So basically, lift or die, bro.
Something like that. We should get that shirt made.
I love it, man. So tell me, why don't we change gears a little bit? You've had a very interesting last month or so in terms of your social media stuff. Now, go into as much detail as you're comfortable with this, but where are things at now?
I mean, I'm back on. I think that they had to take about 1,000 posts off my page.
Wow.
Or I would say 1,000. It was probably about maybe 600.
Wow.
Somewhere around there.
That's crazy.
So
for those people unaware, Phil's Instagram account was flagged for an inadvertent copyright infringement. Apparently several hundred.
You said it so eloquently. That was awesome. But basically, I reposted a picture of my fighters winning a fight from a UFC post. So that's what ended up happening, and they flagged me for it. They flagged me for it probably twice, and I took the pictures down, and evidently, I guess they seen more, and I have over. Then I had over 5,000 posts. So I'm not going to go through all 5,000 posts and take down all that stuff. So that's very time consuming. And I guess it cost me 2 weeks of me not being on Instagram. So that was that.
Yeah, it's.
You know what? And honestly, it was all right, though, because 2 weeks I had Christmas and I had New Year's here. So I was off for that, and I was able to build my YouTube channel. We got, luckily, I should say I'm blessed to have 2,000 more subscribers from the last 2 weeks on my YouTube channel, because I guess Instagram was down, and that's probably why I had that surge of subscribers there, because people were looking for obviously more content.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, first of all, that you were forced to take a bit of a break from IG over Christmas and New Year's, but the other thing is where you direct your energy and your attention, you will see growth. Right? You're a growth-minded dude. What you turn your attention to will actually grow. And I find that interesting because there were maybe 3 or 4 YouTube videos I saw pop up, because I get the notification when you post them. There was a squat, MMA, power, and a bench exercise and an accessory workout. They're pretty broad and general things, and to think that you're pulling down 2,000 new subscribers off of 3 or 4 videos, that's really something, man.
Yeah. I mean, I try to keep it as, obviously it's going to be correlated towards strength and conditioning and combat sports and powerlifting and all the things that I'm into, and obviously my subscribers and my follower base, I'm going to go ahead and put the videos out that they want to see.
Yep.
So I think that was something that I was doing, and paying attention to the comments and always, and answering the comments and the questions that they have in the comments section. That's also something that I see that does work too as well. When you're looking to build your YouTube channel, if you are as a coach or any influencer, you need to make sure that you're having constant communication and being able to have that relationship with your subscribers or your fan base, whatever you want to call it, right? Your followers. If not, man, they're just gonna be like, oh, this guy doesn't care. You know what I mean? And that's far from what I am, and that, man.
True.
Like, I stay up. I stay up late nights answering DMs and messages and emails and all that. Just because I want to make sure that I'm giving maximum amount of value I possibly can with all my content.
Yeah, it's that constant feedback from followers and subscribers. I think it's so important when you're trying to decide which types of content to put out there. Do you have any systems in place for keeping track of these requests from followers and subscribers?
I mean, right now it's just getting on there and picking a time and day when I go ahead and check, and I check different avenues. So it'll be YouTube. I usually check around nighttime, because that's when everybody's kind of settling down and watching YouTube videos. And then for my emails, I check in the morning, primarily when I wake up, and then the DMs and all that, I usually check around my lunchtime, around when I have a slight break. I'm not gonna say I do all the time. Most of the time it's kind of on the fly because of the fact that I'm just working throughout the days. And Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm gone. I work 12 hours nonstop straight, and then I drive. So the drive also takes up 2 hours of my day as well. So it's kind of Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm usually dead to the world unless I'm posting up on Instagram with like my stories or something like that, But other than that, as far as like getting a hold of me, like when it got turned back on, when I got activated, I had over 140 DMs. So I was just going through them nonstop for roughly, I want to say at least an hour and a half. I was going through them, and answering them. And some of them were just like, happy you're back on. So I'm like, cool, But some of them were questions that I didn't answer before when I got shut off. And then, so I try to answer them back. And that's just, it is what it is, man, They were all appreciative of it. And I'm glad to have a true, support team, and you guys and you, Mac, what I'm saying? Everybody kind of got together and got me back on. And honestly, I think the great thing about it is that I have a good relationship with the UFC. So it wasn't like it was something like, oh, we're going to go after Phil. I think that they just saw a picture that was getting a lot of notoriety, and that, they're protecting their brand. And that's all it is. So I wasn't mad about it. Obviously, it's a major source of my business and my branding. And also it's a content release. And also I get to connect with, my other followers and things like that, other coaches. So that was really why I was a little irritated with it. On the other hand, I do get it from that perspective, because everybody's going to try to protect their own stuff, And with that being said, too, we want to make sure that it's an even playing field, everything. So I'm going to make sure that I do not repost any UFC pictures or videos. Not to say that they won't come to American Top Team and still do their countdown shows with me, but that is what it is. That's not shots fired. That's not shots fired. I'm just telling it like it is. And I do. And listen, I like that. I enjoy the videos that we do, the countdown videos. I mean, I've done probably 7 so far, I believe, in the last 3 years. And that's just attested to American Top Team.
That's
we got the best fighters in the world. Hands down, we have the best fighters in the world. If you don't think so, check out our record. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, track record speaks for itself, and we're doing our thing. So that's good. But other than that, man, I'm good, man. I'm happy I'm back on. I put up a couple of posts recently, so going good.
I've seen that. Yeah. So all the public outcry and the hashtag free Phil seems to have paid off.
Yeah. I mean, so I reached out to a guy named Randy who does all of the social media stuff for them, and he was really helpful. He helped me out a lot. He helped out American Top Team too when they got their shut off. So it was cool, man. And then I talked to, Bo and, Bo Sandoval and I talked to those guys out there, and they were like, yeah, we'll try to help you out, because, I mean, those guys also watch and look at my Instagram just as much.
Sure,
what I mean? So, I think that it was a good thing, and honestly, it was actually a relieving thing to kind of let me do my own thing on YouTube and get my subscribers up, like you said, and really focus on that for a little bit, So.
Yeah, it's great, man. Now, we've kind of touched on that. You're running with the law and all the repercussions there. But let's talk about Amanda Nunez, man, because what we witnessed on the weekend, my wife and I were watching this with a friend of ours who, shall I say, is in the developmental stages of becoming an MMA fan, right? So she loved the fact that women are on the big stage, and women's MMA's come so far, and there's all these amazing things happening. But to explain the gravity of Amanda Nunez doing what she did, I said this to her. I said, I've been watching this sport for over 20 years, and I have to file what we just witnessed Amanda do in the most significant things that I've seen in the sport.
Yeah, man, I said it right when she won. I was like, that she's the best ever, literally the best ever. I mean, you beat two of the most dominant women fighters in the world, you know what I'm saying? In two different weight classes.
That's right.
You know, she knocked out Ronda Rousey in less than, I don't know, I think it was like 45 seconds or something like that. Less than a minute,
yeah.
Yeah, and then same with one of the most feared women fighters in the world, one of the most feared fighters in the world. To be honest with you,
there's no question she's the most feared female. There's no question about that.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the funny thing is that all of us at America's Top Team already knew this. We knew that she had the ability to make that happen. And now everybody's kind of seen it, you know what I'm saying? And it couldn't have happened to a person who is as nice and as genuine as Amanda Nunez.
Sure.
You know, she's genuinely a good person, literally.
Yeah.
You know, so I was happy. You know, I've worked with Amanda in the past, and, you know, and I could honestly say she's a hard worker. She's truly focused, but she's fun. She's fun to be around.
Sure.
And that's one thing that I always loved, man. You know, I could say that true to the same thing with Junior Dos Santos and obviously Dustin and those guys. They're fun to be around. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing too, because you gotta like the people that you work with. You know, and you gotta care for them to the point where you will do as much as you possibly can to see them succeed. And that just comes from being a coach and being somebody that you can being somebody that they can count on. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, man, she definitely did her thing. She showed that she was the best or is the best. Honestly, she could retire right now and she's good.
That's right.
You know, but I don't think that's her style. I think she has plenty more to go. She's still young, you know, and we'll see what happens next.
For sure, man. Now, I imagine you were kind of on the peripheral a little bit watching Amanda prepare for all of this. From your observation, what do you think were some of the keys to her beating Cyborg's ass like she just did?
I mean, just being a part of American Top Team. You know, we have, and I hate to say it, man, because even if I wasn't a part of American Top Team, I think I would say that. But just seeing who she trains with on a daily basis, man. She trains with Kayla Harris, who is probably going to be the next star in the women's MMA. Most likely she already is, right? Judo Olympian 3 times, you know, used to handle Ronda Rousey in practice, was a teammate of hers. You know, she's beating girls up in the PFL right now because she's making more money, but eventually that's going to be, you know, a move over to the UFC. It's going to be a big draw. On top of that,
how long till she gets the contract, do you think, for UFC?
I don't know, man. As long as PFL is paying, there's no real point. Yeah. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it comes down to, and then just the other guy, I mean, she trains with guys. She trains with dudes. You know what I mean? And punches like a man, literally. You know what I'm saying? She'll train with 155-pound men. And I'm talking about 155-pound men that fight at 155, that walk around at probably like 170.
170, 180.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you got to think about that. And then obviously, you know, with the amount of jiu-jitsu that we have there, she's a jiu-jitsu black belt. She's a judo black belt. She's so well-rounded. She's so explosive. The key factor for her is always going to managing her energy system throughout the fight, right? Managing her outputs. And then from there, it's over because she can knock out anybody, to be honest with you. She plays around with me and I'm like, yo, get away from me. Like, I don't even get away from me. Because I'm not even trying to play and she just tapped me thinking I don't want none of that. I don't want to get tapped with one of those punches, nothing, right? But in all honesty, man, like I said, I think that was it. That was the major factor, is having the team around her really honing in on her skills and perfecting her true talent, you know?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And tactically, the way Amanda just walked straight across that cage and just stood toe-to-toe with Cyborg. From the very get-go, I thought that was one of the keys tactically, because no one does that shit to Cyborg. No one puts the pressure on her like that.
Well, we studied the game. The game plan is through, you know, studying film and studying her weaknesses and what we've seen in the past where she had gotten in trouble. And it's very seldom that you see Cyborg getting in any trouble, but we were able to exploit that. She was able to exploit it with that leg kick and making sure she stays off balance, because Cyborg doesn't like to look like she's getting beat. So then she starts to go crazy. And that's when you get her off her game, and that's what happens, you know. So she got caught, she got clipped, and then Amanda, being a tactician, she was able to pinpoint her shots under fire and land a big one, and then ultimately put her away.
That was a gunfight, man, that finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, that's incredible stuff. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else you wanted to touch on with that? Because, you know, we could go on all day about the significance of that.
I mean, she walked into the gym the other day, and if you could see it on American Top Team's Instagram page, man, it was like a queen just walked into her palace, man. It was standing ovation. It was probably gave me goosebumps, man. I was training a couple of the guys. She walked in, and the reason why, you know, it was so special is because of the fact that she is such a good person and that she truly cares about everybody in the gym.
Yep.
You know, she'll come up and walk up to everybody, say hi, say what's up. So she's a good representative of the gym itself. It was just awesome that she won those titles like that, and now we can put it up, in our trophy case, or in our belt case, I should say. That's getting too full right now, so we're gonna probably have to make it bigger. I texted Dan Lambert today, man, and I was just thanking him for letting me be a part of the team, and he, obviously he's like, man, we're happy to have you and this and that. So I was like, man, that's awesome to hear, because we're the best team in the world, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see the relationship between Conan and Amanda, both of them tearing up after the fight, I thought that was a really special moment as well. What do you think?
Yeah, Conan is like he's like the dad of the whole gym.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's the head coach. He's like, I mean, I can see him. He kind of comes up to me and he's like, any problems you have and anything you need type stuff. So he's that father figure of the gym, and also our head, the head coach of the gym. So, but yeah, definitely. And the first time that I met Amanda was obviously through Conan, and Conan was, telling me about her. And this was right when this was probably her second fight in the UFC. And that's when I started working with her. So it was, she was at MMA Masters in Miami and moved over to American Top Team with Nina. And they were, so I was looking at her like, oh man, she's pretty explosive. She's kind of green. She doesn't have a whole lot of, doesn't have a great gas tank, back then. And, now we just kind of honed in on the skills, because the skills were there. It's just kind of getting everything centered and getting her, to calm down a bit, now she's good. She's a veteran now. She understands how to manage her outputs in a way that can end the fight quickly,
Yeah, to say she's good would be an understatement. I would say she's definitely the greatest of all time.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you see all these in my world. You see all these people every day, and you're like, man, who is going to be the next one? I see it in a couple people that I work with right now. And you can only see that truly if you've been around greatness for a long period of time.
That's right.
I'm not saying this to be cocky or arrogant because of my team. I'm proud of my team, and I'm proud of the position that I'm at. But the reason why I can see greatness from the beginning stages, right? The growing stages, the embryo stages of its existence, is because I've been around it, So I have a couple. I'm not going to say who yet. Maybe I should. I should, so I can say that I'm right. Honestly, if you want to talk about it, look up a kid named Jordan Young. Jordan Young is going to be pretty damn good. He's an undefeated Bellator fighter. I think he's 9-0 right now. It reminds me a lot of John Jones and how he moves. We got a couple of good guys there. And then there's another one that's coming up. She's a female. She's also a Bellator fighter. Her name's Valerie. She's a Taekwondo champion. She's going to be starting her run at Bellator in the next month. So watch out for her too as well.
Great.
So there we go. I said it.
Taekwondo, man. I tell you, the some of those head kick knockouts that these guys get in competition, Taekwondo competition, they're some of the nastiest shit you'll ever see.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But that's great, man. Fantastic. Massive congratulations to everyone who had a hand in Amanda's preparation, yourself included, the whole team. I think it's just so special.
I mean, the great thing about that is everybody's had a hand in her development as an athlete. So it's a major win for all coaches and the whole entire gym, for sure.
Yeah. It's great, man. Well, moving right along then, mate. We've got plenty of stuff to cover here. We've got, we could do a little bit of a recap of your time in Paris recently. We could go over your mentorship program. You got a couple of seminars coming up in February in the UK.
Yeah. So, Paris was good. The guys out there are fucking awesome, man. Great group of people, very talented and sharp minds out there in Paris. I got to drive a fucking Ferrari, around Paris and underneath the Eiffel Tower. So that was cool. Remy, who was pretty much my guide out there, a very knowledgeable physio, and also works with fighters and also was a fighter himself. So it was good to be around like-minded individuals, like always, like yourself too as well when we were in Australia. So it was fun, man. It was a good experience. They like to riot out there for some reason. They do a lot of that shit.
Crazy.
And protest. They like to protest their ass off. So at the arch, right? The monumental arch that they have over there. My name is on that. That monument.
Your
big letters.
Your ancestry, yeah?
Yeah, Daru. My surname is on there.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, man, get to go see that. Nah, couldn't do that because they were fucking lighting shit on fire around it. So I couldn't go see that. So the one time I'm in Paris, I can't even go see my own monument with my name on it. So
those fuckers ruined it for you, man.
It's all good. That's what happens, I guess. But I'll be back soon. Paris is a good place to go, obviously. So I'll be back pretty soon. I had my first S-car go, so that was it was interesting. Fucking snails, you know.
How'd you go?
But it wasn't bad, man, because it was definitely seasoned the right way. I'll just say it like that, So I was like, all right, it's all good. Met some talented people. So that was awesome, and they treated me good. The food was awesome too as well. That's always a plus,
Yep.
And it was a quick trip. I only went there for like 3 days, in and out, and had fun,
That's great.
As far as what's going on next, 2019 is gonna be obviously a packed year like always, but this like I said, this month, end of the month. Doing the Lockhart thing there, and then in February I have the Florida MMA Awards here, the local state awards for the MMA programming that they have here, and honestly, it's looking good for me to win that Trainer of the Year award again for the second time. I won it the first time as I was 22 years old. It was like 2012. Something along the lines of that, and that was the last time that they had the Trainer of the Year award. So now they brought it back, and I'll be winning that again. sorry to my boy Corey, where he's also nominated as well, but I had to do it.
It is what it is, man. But it's amazing to have two of the directors of the Fight Science Institute nominated for the same award. That's pretty fucking special, man.
Exactly, and we'll get into that too as well. Weekend after that, I do have my powerlifting meet. That's going to be in Florida as well. So I'm still getting ready for that. I'm in a peaking phase now. So, bringing up the intensities, lifting some heavier weights, getting ready to hit some PRs at this meet, which should be good. It'll be my first meet in about a year. Since everything's going on. So,
yep.
It's going to be fun.
How your numbers looking?
Projected, I definitely want to get a 600 squat and sleeves. Looking for anything above 390 on the bench.
Yep.
Would be good for me. And then deadlifts I got to work on, man. I've been playing with sumo, back and forth, sumo, conventional. Seamus back in Australia has been, he's given me kind of a better technique to use more leg drive and to set a good position on my hips in the sumo,
right.
And then I'm utilizing this tightness method where instead of just grabbing the bar and bracing, I'm actually grabbing the middle of the bar, pulling the slack out with that, getting my underhand, and then sliding my overhand to the other side so I can keep that slack or I keep that tension on the bar and get that slack out of the bar. And that's been helping me stay tight in the beginning portion of the first pull, right? That's the one thing that I have is just getting out of position, because everything, I'm strong and just I get out of position. So we got to work on that. But look, I mean, somewhere around mid fives, maybe upper fives on the deadlifts. Nothing crazy. I should be pulling in the sixes, but it is what it is, man. We'll figure it out. I've never been a great deadlifter. Always been a great squatter, obviously, and my bench is getting up there now too as well. So we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All the best for that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And then, end of that month, February, I'll have another seminar in Cherry Hill at, at Beacon Strength and Conditioning. And that's in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So if you do want to check that out, just make sure you DM me on Instagram. I'll send you over the information for that if you are in the area, or if you want to take the trip over there. That's going to be February. Let me look at the date real quick so you guys can mark this down. So it's going to be February 23rd in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So that's that. And then the month after that, we have the FSI seminar. Yep. So that's going to be March 23rd, I believe. Right? Yep.
And that's in New York as well, yeah?
In New York, yep. I'll pull up the information on that. And that's going to be all of us. That's going to be me, Tony Ricci, Dr. Mike Kemp, and Dr. Corey Peacock. It's going to be in Manila, York. I don't know where that is. Siege Athletics. Yeah. So if you want any more information on that, you can check out, obviously, our Instagram page, Fight Science Institute. And then also, or me, if you want to DM me any more information, I'll go ahead and send that over to you.
Sure. Also, the Fight Science Institute Facebook page will have all the information.
Facebook page too as well. In April, I'll be coming out to the UK. Cumbria is the location. And like I said, if you want any more information on that, just go ahead and DM me, and I'll send over that too as well.
Great.
So that's for the first quarter of the year, and then we'll go from there after that.
Yeah, there's a couple of different things in there. Some exciting stuff. Now, we were talking off air earlier. This is a bit of a segue, but we were talking about your latest athlete that you've taken on board from the judo world. I found it very, very interesting what you're doing with Angelica. Could you just tell us a little bit about Angelica and what you guys are doing together?
Yeah, so Angelica Delgado is one of my first judo athletes, and she's getting ready for the 2020 Olympics, but also she has many other tournaments throughout the years, especially Pan Ams and Worlds and things like that. So we have to make sure that she's staying ready to compete, but also progressing as far as her strength and her power goes as well. Working on mobility through FRC principles. A lot of the things that I've been seeing with her is that she does favor one side of her throw. So any type of hip tosses or any type of judo tosses that she's doing it to one side only. So I want to balance that out so she can be strong in both regions of the body, so that she has a broader performance base. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I've been working on. And obviously we've been doing conjugate because obviously she's competing. So I got 2 weeks with her, and then she competes for 2 weeks, and then she's gone. She goes to Austria on Monday, and she's going to be gone for another 2 weeks, competes the next weekend, and then she's back again. So what we'll end up doing is I'll do a transition phase. We'll slightly deload her after her competition, and then we're back onto our conjugate method. And it's the same thing. I have 3 days a week with her. We do a max effort, a dynamic effort, and a repetition effort method, throughout those 3 days. And same thing applies. We're working on special exercises to enhance her abilities to produce power in those main lifts. The main lifts are going to correlate heavily to the sport. And then we work on accessories in, single joint movement patterns to make sure that her muscles are strong and have the tissue strength to withstand any type of load or any type of force put upon her. So that's primarily the basis behind that. With her sport, it's obviously going to be more anaerobic and slightly lactic. because of the fact that they have grips. I think it's upper body lactic and more anaerobic in her legs.
Yep.
I've been talking with a gentleman that I've worked with in the past in Poland, who was actually one of my translators in Poland when I went out there for a seminar, and he's a judo player and also a tremendous strength and conditioning coach. And we should definitely shout him out. Well, let me see his. If you guys want to follow his Instagram, go ahead and do that. Let me see where it's at real quick. So his Instagram is coach_Michael Surdej. So it's MICHALSURDEJ. Make sure you follow that young man. He's a true coach, and honestly, he's going to be someone to look forward to in the future when it comes down to coaching for strength and conditioning.
Sure.
But so I've been going back and forth with him a little bit, and seeing what we could do from an energy perspective to get her better. Primarily she's a small girl. She fights at 115, walks around about 130-ish, and very fast, very explosive. But she does need to gain a little bit of absolute relative strength and isometric strength. And then obviously she needs to have repeated sprint ability for the sport. So we've been working on that as well.
Okay.
But it's good. I'm happy. I'm excited. It's my first Olympic athlete other than Kayla Harris, who now fights MMA. So really can't say that. But it is my first active Olympic athlete. And then also I'll be working with another gentleman that she came in with as well by the name of Alex, who's also getting ready for the Olympics. So got 2 judo Olympians that are working towards getting that gold. So we'll see what happens.
Very, very, very exciting stuff. Now, out of all that, I've got 2 questions for you. The first one we spoke about off air, which is when you've got considerations like a very, very high discrepancy between strength levels in the left side and the right side, mainly to do with her game and her strengths in her particular style. To what degree are you working on minimising the strength discrepancy between left and right? And to what degree will minimising that discrepancy negatively impact her game or her style?
Yeah, what I mean by that is I just want to make sure we're balancing out the body to the point where she's not going to get injured and that she can she can perform at her highest from an overall spectrum, right? I want to give her more tools in her toolbox. Yep. I don't want to hinder her own performance and her game. The great thing about it is that it's not like fighting where as if I stand only in a southpaw position, right? They do stand somewhat squared up, right, in a position that they usually are going to be in before they go to throw. Right. Once they go to throw, they usually will they favor one side. But if you're going against opponents that you face year in and year out all the time, they're going to know exactly what you go, what side you're going to go to, so they can kind of defend that, right? So I want to make sure that she has more tools so that she can throw in all different directions, throw from different sides, and then also she doesn't get hurt in the process of doing that. With that being said, I still want her to work her game. So her skills work still has to be consistent, right? She still has to do her throws from both sides. And I've seen her practices, and they do both side throws, right? So if she's throwing from the left, she's throwing from the right. It's just she favors one side other than the other. So that's why she's stronger there. So for that particular, I guess your question, I'm doing enough to where I'm going to cause performance increases, but not enough to where it's going to hinder her overall performance and alter her biomechanics of the sport.
Sure. Now, thank you for that answer. That was very cool. The second thing that came out of all of that earlier was the fact that she's competing so regularly, right? Now that really throws a spanner in the works, especially when your 80 MMA fighters, they may fight three times a year, might be, I guess, average for a lot of pro and semi-pro fighters. But to have someone competing once every other month, for example, that's twice the amount of peaking and deloading. That's a lot of consideration.
She competes, I'm going to say the frequency of competing for her. She competes at least once or twice a month. Jesus Christ. So we're looking at the same similarities as a rugby season or an American football season, right? So the main focus when it comes down to competition season is we got to obviously decay fatigue, make sure she's getting a stimulus adaptation that we need, maintaining strength and increasing power production, and also making sure that she's efficient with her energy system. So we do that concurrently throughout the week, and then I taper her 2 weeks out. You know?
Stress management must be a big thing as well with that kind of schedule.
Yeah, and that's another thing is like understanding how to recover properly is going to be a key factor. With the nutrition side of things. I have my assistant Eric working on that. He's another George Lockhart guy. You know, we have cryotherapy. She has PT sessions. All these things. Christiana, I'm going to get her working on her too as well, Dr. Christiana Marin. So we're putting all these pieces together so that she can recover properly, because like I've always said, and I said it recently, you know, it's not what you can do, it's what you can recover from. So we want to make sure that she's recovering adequately. And then from there, then, you know, we can see true performance increases. But other than that, you know, the main goal is going to be the 2020 Olympics.
Yep.
So the annual plan is to get her ready for that.
Yep.
But I do want to make sure, we always want to make sure that she's dominating in these small tournaments, right?
Absolutely.
So have to keep her ready year round, but the major goal is obviously to win gold in the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah. So how do you break down the timeline from then being the goal to have her in peak state for 2020 Olympics, breaking that down from the end goal backwards? What's your process there?
Well, obviously we want to first have a baseline assessment, right? So we want to see where we're at to begin with, and then we want to set a long-term goal at the end. You know, we have a good amount of time, right? We have all this year and then some of next year to get her ready for her optimal performance there. So at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make sure that we're increasing strength in quadrants after her competitions, and luckily we get a break at the end of July. So she'll have a little bit of time there that we can truly gain some optimal strength, maybe a little bit of hypertrophy there, so that she's not carrying around the excess body fat that she doesn't need. And then when it comes down to weight cutting, it's easier weight cut too as well. So working on gaining a solid baseline of strength and work capacity throughout the time that we don't have tournaments going on is going to be the key factor right there.
Sure. And
that span of time that we have, I think we have about 4 to 6 months that we can truly go ahead and work on that GPP. But for right now, it has to be conjugate.
Yep. And I imagine you would have a battery of assessments that you would roll out periodically to make sure that you're hitting all your markers in all of these modalities.
Yeah, so we're going to do an anaerobic threshold test. By far, I think that's one of the things that we're going to do. We can either do a field test or we can take her to the lab. Either way, we'll do a Wingate test to monitor that. We can take her to Corey's place. If not, I could do a field test there. We'll do a VO2 max test just to have it for a measurement. Usually it's going to be a beep test. We'll use the MAS calculator to correlate the protocols after we find out her true VO2 and her MAS. And then power and all my other strength testing parameters. We're going to do that pretty much for testing. You know, for conjugate, we're going to test her every week with our max effort. Mm-hmm. So I want to see true records being broke, even if it's a 2.5 pound increase. I'm cool with that because that's another record broke. If we keep doing that every week, that's progress, right? So she's going to be stronger by the end of the year, no matter what. Yep. With that being said, you know, force times velocity equals power. So obviously we're going to increase in our power if we can increase that rate of force. So I'm trying to increase that force and also make sure that she's keeping her speed through other means of change of direction drills and quickness activation drills that I use with bands and other types of movement drills that we do that are more correlated towards the sport. Honestly, true speed is running. True speed is distance over time. They don't need that really inside that small, you know, parameter of their fight, right? They need to be quick. Yeah. They need to be able to change, you know, direction and redirect force. So that's what I'm truly working on is quickness and change of direction.
Right. So. What about velocity? You're working with the gym aware still?
I still work with the gym aware. I use it primarily to gauge adaptations, to gauge the stimulus that we're trying to acquire, right? So if I'm looking for a true dynamic effort, I want 0.8 to 1 meter per second, and I'll put the gym aware on there so I can gauge that. And then from there, I can eye it after that. So it's not truly, something I use all the time. I may get a velocity profile on them, but max effort is just as good, in my opinion, also to see breakdown, right? What I've seen with the gym aware, in my opinion, is that especially with the people and the athletes that I have that are very competitive, once they see that gym aware, all technique goes out the fucking window. Like they want to rip the bar off the floor, technique goes crazy. So I have to have a certain type of individual that's going to maintain their level of focus and technique, even when they're trying to move the bar as fast as possible, right? Another thing we need to utilize is bands, right? In order for me to have true compensatory acceleration and eliminate bar deceleration, and also stop technique from being too out of whack when we put that gym aware on, is to put bands on the bar. And that's primarily what I'll be using when I have the means to do so.
That's great. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's a fairly loaded kind of question I asked you, but there's so much in it. There's so many things to consider. There's so many different things that need to be developed, especially with judo. It's a very specific skill set. There's similar problems you're going to encounter to an MMA fighter, but they're a lot more specific in a sport like judo. I know from my experience working with all the jiu-jitsu fighters that I have over the years, it's, you can be very specialized just working with that one type of athlete. But when you zoom out and look at the timeline between now and the Olympics, I reckon that's fascinating. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with that, mate.
I know, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having that time off too, and building another foundation of strength there. Yeah. With that GPP phase, I think if we get a good solid 3 months of GPP, it's just gonna be another person. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna step on that Olympic stage. So it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. So everyone, keep your eye out for Angelica Delgado. Is that right?
Delgado. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yep. Yeah. I'll be watching with keen interest, mate. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Now, what else have we got to cover, mate? I think we've been right through my list. What else did you have in mind?
Nothing. What's been going on with you? Let's tap into your resources, huh? What have you been up to?
Well, there's been plenty going on over here in Melbourne. Like we were just saying off air, I mean, yesterday we had a 40-degree day here in Melbourne. 40 degrees is what? Over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And
yes.
Whereas today it's 20 degrees, we don't know where we are with the weather here in Melbourne right now. It's all over the place. So we got that to deal with. But business-wise, things, we're in the time of year now where things are really quite quiet, which gives us time to focus on other areas of the business and kind of plan things out for the year ahead. So we've got a few irons in the fire with the business, both with Fitline Personal Training and with the Unknown Strength, and of course with the Fight Science Institute. So we've got plenty of planning to do. We've got big plans for 2019. Fitline, the growth we're projecting for Fitline is really, really exciting. So we're kind of just building out the systems to manage the growth that we're projecting. So it's it's kind of keeping me busy, keeping me on my toes. But loving life, man. It's good.
That's awesome, man. I love when I came out there, man. I got to see, you working with your athletes and really doing your thing. How's the young kid?
Cooper.
What's his name?
Cooper Burnham.
Yeah, how's Cooper doing? Yeah, how's he doing?
Cooper is such a legend. He, I documented fairly well his preparation for IBJJF No-Gi World Championships, which had just gone about a few weeks, maybe a month ago. Cooper worked intensely with me 3 times a week for 8 weeks in preparation. I worked fairly closely with Dan Howard, just in fine-tuning the periodization for that 8-week period, and all the high velocity work we were doing. At the very beginning of the 8 weeks, Cooper was like a fish out of water. But as we got further and further into it, he adapted so beautifully to all this stuff. Like his jumps really came a long way. Not just literally in terms of, his horizontal jump, increased a lot, but he was generating force more efficiently. He was absorbing force more efficiently. His jumping and landing mechanics just really improved out of sight. His throws, his high velocity throws, like every element, you could not wish for a better camp. And Cooper's, like I said, Cooper's still very new to high velocity modalities. But I'm telling you, he is just the specimen, man. It was so good to see. Good, man. So good to see his development. But what he did was he went over from here to the US. I think it was Dallas, Texas, a couple of weeks or a week before the IBJJF World Championships. In Dallas, Texas, they held the NAGA World Championships, or the North American Grappling Association.
NAGA.
Yeah, so Cooper went over and won double gold. He won gi and no gi. He won the belt. So he absolutely smashed that. His dad.
That's crazy, man.
His dad told me, his dad said, I don't think I've ever seen Cooper beat guys so badly as he did at that competition.
That's crazy, yeah. He's on another level when it comes to that. Like the NAGA tournaments will probably be just a practice for him. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
It's always good, but it's good to stay competing, and that's one thing that I think that kid has is he has a competitor's mindset, and he wants to achieve things, and that's going to be good. And anything that you give him he's going to soak up like a sponge. Right. He's got that. He's still super young, super green in the game, and I think that once you develop an athleticism towards what he does on the mats, is just going to be unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? So it's good for you, man. You know what I'm saying? It's fun to watch. When I watch it from the outside in, it's fun.
It's great, man. Yeah, I mean, absolutely loving it. It's a real privilege to be working with Coop. Him and his family, just incredible people. So we're really fortunate. But nice, outside of that, I've got 3 of our fighters in just real metabolic fat loss phases at the moment. So it's been a lot of fun, absolutely flogging these guys with volume and sprint.
That's always a good part.
Sprint intervals and lots of volume and lots of density, and it's been fun. We're seeing some good adaptations in that as well.
That's good, man. Yeah, I've picked up a couple of people in my way. I'm actually working with the Pittsburgh Steelers, American football team, Pittsburgh Steelers. His parents are the owners, so he's the grandchild of them. So been working with him now. It's gonna be fun. He's just a regular guy. Get to have some fun with that, and we'll see how that goes too as well. Another one that I'm working with is obviously who's back, little Tecia Torres.
Oh yeah.
So I'm working with Tecia now again after her last fight with Joanna. So she's back in the gym. I'm working with her. She's fighting in UFC 235 or 234, I should say, in March. So that should be fun, so we'll see what's going on. You know how I am, man. It's got a bunch of stuff going on. But
so hang on, Ticia's moved back to Florida from, is it Colorado?
I don't think she moved back. I think she's just doing her camp here. She's just getting away from Colorado, and she'll probably be going back after the fight, obviously. But she's doing her camp here for sure.
Sure, that's awesome. So, love watching Tecia fight. She's such a legend.
Yeah, she's another one, man, that was really, is close to me, and one I consider a friend. So this is good to have her back, you know what I mean? And it's good to have her in the gym with all the other females that we have there. Nina Ansaroff is now number 3 in the world, who was Amanda's, girlfriend there, and obviously we have Joanna. So I mean, it's gonna be good. Iron sharpens iron. You know how it goes.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, my friend, I reckon now might be as good a time as any to start to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Next week, let's do it again. We got to keep this thing going. I need 100 episodes at least.
100 episodes.
All right, Matt.
All right, bro.
I need 100.
We got the bar set.
Exactly, man. We're not stopping here, man. We got to demand. We got to fulfill that demand. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I love it. Well, we've got more time in our schedule now that Christmas and New Year's is out of the way. So
yeah.
Let's get busy. Let's get after it.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.